Okay, so in this video we're going to explore solving equations, but we're going to look at situations where you have fractions in the equation. So let's take a look at the problem here. Solve, and your equation is 5/8 plus 1/4 x equals 1/2 x. Alright, so again there is x's on both sides of the equation and we have fractions. So what do we do? Well, one of the things you'd like to be able to do is you want to clear the fractions, right? So how do you clear the fractions? So you'd like to clear fractions. Now you can clear fractions, and the way you do this is you find the least common denominator for the problem for all the fractions, right? You find the LCD for all the fractions and then you multiply through by the LCD. So I take a look at this problem and I see four fractions, four denominators, 8, 4, and 2, and the LCD for this problem is 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply every single term by 8. So 8 times 5/8 plus 8 times 1/4 x is equal to 8 times 1/2 x. So this is 8 over 1, 8 over 1, 8 over 1 right there. And so let's do the multiplication, right? So over here we can cancel these 8's and that reduces to 5 plus. And over here you can cancel the 8's or you can write that as 8/4 and then reduce it to 2. And likewise over here you can either cancel the 2 and the 8 or you can write it as 8 over 2 and reduce it. You get 4. So if you did this step right, if you multiplied correctly and simplified correctly, what you will get is an equation with no fractions. And then you proceed to solve this like you would any other equation. So let's get the variables to one side. So this time I'm going to get the variables to the right side. So I'm going to subtract a 2x from both sides. And so I have 5 equals to 2x, and then I'm going to divide by 2, and I get x equals to 5/2. That's my equation. So the big trick was we can clear the fractions by multiplying by the LCD. Let's take a look at another problem. So solve, and this time let's make it a little harder. So here is the problem. 3/5 times x minus 6 equals to 2/3 3x minus 5. So what do we do now? Well, same thing, we're still going to clear the fractions, but I would suggest that right before you clear the fractions, you first distribute, right? So first distribute. So let's go ahead and distribute. So it's 3/5 times x minus 3/5 times 6. Now I don't try to do the multiplication um, um, uh, and and distribution all in one step. I spread it out because I know I'll make a mistake otherwise. So distribute. So I just write the distribution step, and I'll go ahead and multiply these fractions. I know you want to clear the fractions quickly, but you just bear with me. Just do this step because it prevents a lot of errors. So over here I'm going to multiply across. That's 18/5 equals to 6. Well, actually 6/3, right? 2 times 3. I can cancel. I can reduce that and write that as 2x minus, and over here 10/3. Alright, now I'm going to clear fractions. So clear fractions. And I can clearly see all the denominators. And so this denominator over here is a 1, right? So the LCD is, well, there's a 5 and a 13 and a 3, so the LCD is 15, right? So I'm going to multiply every term. So there are 4 terms, each term whether it has a fraction or not. You don't have a choice. It's all or nothing. So the second one, that's 15 times 18/5 equals to 15 times 2x minus 15 times 10/3. So this is over 1, over 1, over 1. Alright, so over here I'm going to cancel this 5, and that gives me a 3. And so 3 times 3 is 9x minus, over here this cancels there, 3 times 18 is, let's see, 18 times 3, 54, equals to 30 minus, cancel that, gets a 5, 50. Okay, alright, so now what do I do now that I've distributed, cancel the fractions? So the next step, of course, is to get my variables to one side. So gather variables. Okay, so I'm going to get everybody on the left, the variables on the left. So I'm going to subtract a 30x from both sides. So that's going to be 9 minus 30, that's a minus 21, equals to minus 50. Notice how I write the equal sign, the right side, everything very clearly, each step, slowly and carefully. Right? There's no rush. Now I'm going to add 54 to both sides. I'm using the additive principle, the addition multiplication properties right there being used. So that's minus 21x equals to 4, and divide both sides by minus 21, and I get x equals minus 4 over 21. That's it. So we've taken a look at 2 problems with fractions in them, and learned how to clear the fractions by simply multiplying through by the LCD.